Yes, 96. You know, that boxing in Zoom is very good for the brain. Right, left, turn this, turn that. I don't kick, but I just dance with George. My husband loved to dance. Our whole family loved to dance. The young people these days, we went out dancing in a dark bar where nobody would see us. I feel that if you live even past the age of 90, that should be celebrated. Without pain, it'd be great to die healthy and then have wonderful memories. And that's the way I feel. If you had a fairly good life, it can't be perfect, and you live as long as I'm living, we have to celebrate.
I am 90 years old.
105.
94.
96.
And I have enjoyed life.
I know that I'm blessed.
I've had an exceptionally wonderful life.
I don't remember too much of my childhood, except that I was very shy and I probably stayed under the table quite a bit.
Do you remember what year you were born?
1908.
You've lived through a lot of historical events. Is there any one in particular that impacted your life?
Yes, I think it's World War I.
August 1914. The leading nations of Europe prepared to go to war.
I had a brother at that time was in World War I. So many of my relatives had gone.
I lived with my grandparents because I came from a divorced family. It was during the probation days.
I solemnly promise, God helping me, to abstain from the use of all distilled, fermented, and malt liquors, and that means wine and beer.
My grandfather made home brew, which is a homemade beer, but in our basement. So to keep my brother and I quiet, he always promised, I'll make you a batch of root beer, but you mustn't say anything. The root beer never got to its final stage because we had a white curtain that went around a storage area. And so my brother and I would sneak behind there, open up a bottle of root beer and drink it. So by the time it was really fermented and ready to drink, we had drank it all.
I was born in Bryan, Texas in 1931, so I'm 84 years old, and traveled a lot of farm work and stuff like that I done. I went to pick cotton in Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas, Arizona. I went by myself to Arizona, picked cotton there in California, Bakersfield, done the we used to come to Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, during the summertime, waiting for the cotton to get ready to be picked. And we picked cherries, and then after that, we went to Ohio, Indiana, and picked the tomatoes. And after that, we went back to Arkansas, and the cotton was ready to pick, and then we picked cotton till about Christmas.
I guess some of the outstanding ones involved Henry Ford. Grandma Horger and Henry Ford's wife had been grade school and high school chums together. And on the times when Henry's wife would come up and visit Grandma, frequently Henry would drive her. And I recall the two ladies would sit up on the front porch of the old farmhouse, and we kids would sit on the ground underneath the big apple tree on the front lawn with Henry, and we'd talk to Mr. Ford. And if we worked it right, we could always persuade him to take us across the street to Srocker General Store, and he would buy us penny candies.
I was born during the Depression. I was born in 29, and that was pretty good, the start of the Depression. So as a kid, if we got one thing for Christmas, that was it, just one item.
Oh, well, the Depressions affected us very much so. My father had lost his business completely, and my sister and I would go and we'd sell dried fruits. All of us worked. I worked at a department store all through college. And my brother went to night school, and my sister did, so I could go to day school. It took them 7 years, and they worked all day. So, but we never complained. We just had a very lovely life.
In 1933, while most of you were graduating from high school, we read that a funny little man called Hitler had come into power in Germany. We heard that a thing called the Nazi Party had taken over. Today we rule Germany, tomorrow the world. What kind of talk was that?
We lived on the west side of Detroit, and we had never been up to Lansing and seen the state capitol. And so we decided one December Sunday we were going to drive up to Lansing. We left the Capitol building about 4:45, got in the car, started down Grand River toward Okemos, and I turned the radio on, just in time to hear them announce that Pearl Harbor had been attacked and we were going to war. And I thought to myself, my word, I'm going to be in it. My mother made me promise that I wouldn't enlist in the military until I got my degree. And I kept that promise. The day after I got my degree, at 8 o'clock in the morning, I was down at Naval Officer Procurement, volunteering. I wanted to be a pilot.
There was a program that attracted people who were able to pass a battery of tests. You went to the infantry for the basic training, 18 weeks. So you were ready to go to war, but it wasn't expected that you would go to war. It was expected that you would go to college, get degrees in areas of need. But I never got to college on that program because the direction of the war changed, and the headlines in the newspapers said, "Scholars no longer needed, soldiers needed." And so we went directly, after our basic training, into the infantry.
And one thing I must tell you, really, that still hurts me to this day, most of my girlfriends were not Jewish. They were Christian. The minute, when we had to start wearing the Jewish star on our clothes, I lost all my girlfriends. I couldn't go to their homes. They would not let me, and they wouldn't come into our house either.
My life changed after I got drafted in 1943. We drove right to Germany to the Siegfried Line, the first ones in the Battle of the Bulge. We had just started on December 16th at 6 o'clock in the morning. Then the second day, a big shell fell by me and ripped the back of my thigh off. And I was put in a spot where my buddy was on my left, and he was shot right through the Adam's apple. And every breath was just spurt of blood. So, and on my right was a German soldier. He was riddled with bullets, and he was crying for a cigarette. So I lit a cigarette, put it in his mouth, and I think he expired. And so, and next thing you know, then I got captured.
And it took us about 3 days before we arrived in Auschwitz. So I hung on to my mother and my sister all the time, all the time. The women went one side and the men went to the other side, and my dad went to the other side. So they put us in one of the bunk. We got a bunk. It was all wood, naturally. So we slept there and we lived there, and every day we went into a barrack where we were sorting clothes from the dead that were just killed in a gas chamber. And that was our job.
They had been persuaded to remove their clothing under the pretext of taking a shower, for which towels and soap were provided.
So all that clothes was piled up, practically all the way to the ceiling. And one day I came across my father's jacket. And I looked at it, and I went and I pushed it aside. So my mom didn't see it, and my sister didn't see it. So then I knew that my dad was not alive anymore. I remember when they killed the gypsies one night. I remember when they killed the gay people one night. And I remember when they killed the people from another camp. They brought them over and they killed them there. When it was total quiet, that's when I broke down each time, because I knew that they were dead. Everybody was dead.
We went 4 days in that boxcar. And then once a day they open up the door and give you a slice, 1/10 of a loaf of black bread. I was sitting to another soldier. He was not from our outfit, he was from another outfit, but he was right next to me, and I told him, I said, now don't sleep, just rub your legs or we're not going to have legs. And we just kept rubbing our legs, rubbing our legs. That bunch of soldiers there, about half of them lost their legs. They froze black. It was so cold in those boxcars. Then we finally reached prison camp. But it happened to be Christmas Eve. And so all of a sudden, one voice, another voice, and another voice. The entire barn was singing Silent Night, Holy Night. Every nationality just singing away. So that fueled us up again.
College was great. College was Hunter College, and all through Hunter, all of us used to go down to USO during the war. That was in 1941. Well, it was sad because these guys were leaving. They never knew when they would be shipped out. That was a long time ago. But my brother was in the South Pacific. And it's interesting because my mother used to bake devil's food cakes, put them in containers, and send them to the South Pacific. And they got there.
As the war continued, everybody wondered how long it would last, because it seemed like that 5 years was forever. But it finally ended.
And then all of a sudden, one day, the Russians advanced from the east.
But there is no weak link in Stalin's master plan. By Herculean labors and great bravery, the Germans were driven back.
And in the morning, we were free as a bird. The Russians had taken that town during the night. They bombed the heck out of it. And we woke up and we could go outside. There were no Germans around anymore. And from then on, we were in American hands.
One day I said to my sister, you know something, we are going to be free for your birthday. We're going to celebrate your birthday. And they thought I was out of my mind anyway. And 70 women in the room start to laugh. He says, I think you went crazy. You must be crazy. Anyway, one day, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, something like that, and I heard people running back and forth and back and forth. I got up and I went over to the window. And I saw familiar faces in regular clothing, in civilian clothes. Well, I want you to know that day when I saw them running back and forth as civilian people, we were liberated. And that was May 3rd. And my sister's birthday was May 10th.
Well, I'll tell you about the most perfect gal in the world. Some way I got a little picture of her. I put it in my wallet, and that picture went through with me in the Battle of the Bulge. She was always with me, and we corresponded for 3 years. We never had a date. She saved look at that. She saved everyone. Wow, that's incredible. Isn't that fabulous?
Do you remember when President Kennedy got shot?
Yes, I sure do.
When he was running.
When he was a senator.
Yes.
You saw him in Kansas City, didn't you?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
They had a meeting, a city library. They had a meeting for President Kennedy, and we were introduced to him, sort of different from the other people. So we had a nice visit with him.
November 22nd, President John Fitzgerald Kennedy was shot to death in full view of hundreds of spectators watching him in a Dallas, Texas motorcade. I
was ironing in the basement when watching television when Kennedy was shot. I did see that on TV, which was like a shock to me. I just didn't think that could happen.
When President Kennedy was killed, that was the most historical thing that I have ever gone through. It affected me, first of all, because I liked him, and secondly, the way he was killed. The way he died affected me an awful lot. It really hurt me a lot.
I was drafted in Wisconsin. From there I went to Little Rock, Arkansas, Fort Sill, Oklahoma, Fort Leavenworth, Missouri, took my basic there. I wound up in Alaska doing the Korea conflict. I had a brother already in Korea, and that's where I wanted to go to, but they said that they couldn't send two brothers in the same combat zone, so I was lucky enough to wind up in Alaska. 1953, they sent me back to the United States. I got discharged in Camp Arkansas. And I went back to do the thing we done, do sharecropping and stuff. I worked for $2.50 a day, not an hour, a day. That's what they paid us during the 50s. And the sun in Texas and Arkansas is hot.
I used to sing in nightclubs and dance. Loved it. My history, not only black, but I'm a mixture of everything. Being black, there was a discrimination.
We will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
We were all shocked. Now, my son was attending a meeting of a club that he was a member of. And the other members were all African Americans, Negroes in those days. and they said he should go home because there was trouble in the neighborhood. So he came home and he said, it didn't look like a riot to me, it looked like a carnival. He said people were sitting in the street trying on shoes. They sent in National Guard troops at the request of the governor. So it was, you know, there were tanks going down the lodge, and there were even stores on Livernois, which was a very nice shopping street in those days, were going up in smoke.
Times were hard. They differed. My daughter sat out of Vietnam. She became a Quaker for peace, and left Michigan and went to Amherst. So nothing was great. Life is full of difficulties, but you have to survive.
And I did see the towers being hit on 9/11. So I think that historically, those things have really impacted my memories.
To stay active, well, I think that I've done that since my mother threw us out of bed when we were teenagers. Go play ball, go play handball, go ice skating. My daughters never did, but I think I've been active all my life.
If I can't get out on the golf course, why, when I go to Myers, I make 2 tours of the store for exercise, and that's a lot more fun than walking around watching people walk their dog.
Do you remember jumping on the trampoline at Janice's house when you were 88 years old?
Yes.
Tell us that story.
Well, I did it every day, but she was gone to work. And I didn't think about telling her. But she came home one day, and I was on the trampoline. And she seemed so surprised, and then I told her I'd been doing it for a long time.
I was a tennis player. I was a golf player. I play mahjong. I play bridge. And that keeps me busy. It keeps me thinking. It keeps my mind going. So, you know, I don't sit and say, well, now what am I going to do tomorrow? It never bothered me.
I did go to work again at Consumer Power, and from there I did retire in '87, but I also had an ill mother who lived in Florida, and I brought her back up here to live with me and took care of her. And after 2 years, I had to put her in a nursing home because I couldn't lift her anymore. And I went back to work part-time, and I retired at 89.
I got hurt in 2011, and I've slowed down quite a bit, but I'm still active with the American GI Forum. I'm still active with the union, with the Veterans Union. I'm still active with the American Legion, back as a VFW in 40 and 8. So I try to help people out, interpret them, because we got a lot of people that are still coming from south of the border, even Guatemala, Salvador, that they come here to Flint looking for a job right now. And I'm still interpreting them because a lot of them don't even know how to speak it. And I tell them where there might be some job like washing dishes and stuff like that. So
I was involved with a lot of Filipino organizations. First was the Filipino Women's Organization, and then the Federation of Filipinos, the Old Timers. I was involved in that too. And then when we started to raise money for a cultural center, we were the first one involved in that too. And then I was with Kiwanis. When they admitted women to the Kiwanis Club, I became the president, first woman president of Kiwanis, Filipino Kiwanis. And then I became a lieutenant governor, and that was it.
So here I am today, and it's 30 years since I flew an airplane. But the kids bought me a computer simulation program several years ago, and I fly an hour a day, come hell or high water, even today. 70, V1, rotate. And off we go, we're flying. I've never smoked. Used alcohol in moderation.
Well, I guess I didn't abuse my life too much, and I followed the straight path.
Yeah, you never drank anything either. That
Oh
probably
no,
kept you healthy for a long
I
time.
never smoked a cigarette in my life, and I didn't drink either.
And you exercised a lot.
Yes, I was walking sometimes like 15 miles in one day.
I think the food that you eat, if you start eating the right food, because we work out in the fields out there, so we ate a lot of vegetables. I had a cousin that lived to be 101 years old. You work out in the fields too, you know.
On my 80th birthday, I finished an annual physical with my doctor, and he said, "George, you are the healthiest octogenarian in Oakland County. You might live to be 100. And I said, "Really?" "Well, that just shows you what clean living and proper diet and lots of exercise and lots of fresh air and lots of hard work will do for you, right?" And he laughed and he said, "No, you just got the right genes."
I say partly it's due to genes, I would say. But then again, people have parents who really outlive them.
You know, I really don't know. Good genes, for one thing. My mother died at 92, my dad at 89.
I felt that I was really lucky in the genetic inheritance I got, but more than that, a nurturing inheritance in which my parents really were committed to seeing the opportunities were there and that whatever interests I had were nurtured.
There is no secret, really. I mean, if you think positive, that's a positive outlook on life is very important to everybody. And I'm a very positive person.
I don't do anything to make myself happy. I was born thinking constructively, I guess, and I've always been a constructive, forward-looking thinker. And I think a lot, and I do a lot of things.
I guess it's a frame of mind as well. Get up with a good attitude if you can. Be positive rather than negative. Just move your body and think positively and go dancing. Come on, let's dance. See, when I don't go to the club, but I put on my tapes and I dance in here. I'm a nutty old woman. When I'm alone, I'm fine. But if I'm out in public, I don't want to look like an old lady fool.
Do you ever get lonely?
At times. But that's part of living. You could be lonely, married, and with children growing up, you could be lonely. No, I've had friends in facilities and I've been there visiting. And I really like being on my own. In fact, when my husband died, my daughter gave me this little photo that's in my kitchen. It says, "You'll never be lonesome, you always have yourself." I don't think I'd want to go into a home. I like to eat dinner in my robe. And I'd come down and dress for dinner at 4:30. No, I don't know. It's hard to tell because sometimes you're not in your right mind. You don't know where to go. It's happening to people in this building, happening to friends of mine whom I used to go out with I don't see anymore. But they're comfortable in their facilities. Lots of them take medication and they have to be watched.
Now this is a funny place. I'm here, and look how many neighbors I got. God dang it, there's about 148 people here. And I walk the halls to get some exercise. You can walk how many days you don't see a soul. So that's the difference here. It's really something different for me to be here, and I'm taking it. You know, it's just a new phase in my life. Yeah, and you have to be adjusted to everything that comes your way. Yeah, you can't fight it. I am in this place now. I like it, but if I hadn't had the 5 months experience in the prison camp, it would be difficult for me. I get 3 meals a day, but I only go once at noontime because you can't sit down and have 3 meals a day. But I go to this dining room, and what do I see? All disabled people. You know, there's nobody to enlighten you to see that life is there. So you look across, you look, and you know that one time they were heads of a wonderful family, and now the kids drop them off here, and you see them there. They're in rough shape, going with a walker like I am, and we look like a bunch of penguins, and you know. So that's. But I'm not, griping because I have a good life. I have a good life, and the best part is, I have a good head yet. You know, a lot of people have other difficulties, but I am blessed with that.
Going into facility is still costly unless you go into a very ordinary one. But the state-of-the-art ones now that are going up, you could go through your savings within a couple of years. So it's a problem. My daughter says I could always live in a little outhouse on their property. But anyhow, you hope not to depend upon the children. Some people don't mind, but I certainly would not.
But I don't want to give up what I've got. So, you know, I don't want to depend on something else as long as I can do it myself. And sometimes that's a problem with my children because they don't think that I can do it by myself. And so I don't ask for help when I need it. Well, first of all, I thought by the time I was 70 that I would never be here. This is a complete shock to me. I'm almost 91 in a couple of months. The head doesn't feel like it's 91. It's back in the high heel days, but the body is given out. Losing my sight is a very traumatic thing for me. I'm battling that, but I'm thankful I have one good eye, and I can see images with the other. So I really have more to be thankful for than I have to gripe about. Also, giving up driving was very, very hard for me, and still is, but you do what you have to do, and it is what it is.
Oh, hearing loss, cataracts, and other things that couldn't be fixed. Losing your license if you can't drive, but you should really know when you have to stop driving. Things of that nature. Falling is something that everybody has been doing in buildings, even people in their 80s. So how careful can you be? If it happens, it happens.
I'm still trying to work on it, but I can't move them too fast like I used to, because I had an accident and that really slowed me down.
I have one physical problem, which I wish I didn't have, but to have only one after all these years, and that is my legs don't always function the way you hope they would function. And there have been 3 or 4 occasions in which they actually just stopped altogether. But I don't find aging to be too threatening. In fact, as I've suggested, there are some fringe benefits when people see that you're in a condition to have some help. It's fun to see how they come forward and do really offer assistance.
Do you have a life alert? Do you have a life alert?
I didn't even want one. I don't want to be alerted. No, my God, I said, no, I'd like to just bow out. DNR is my motto. It's much better to die younger, as far as I'm concerned. Not people feel that way.
No, I'm at the point where I can't do much of anything. I can't see or hear, and I have always been very active, and I love to play bridge, and at one point I was just hoping that I didn't have to be around much longer, because when you've been used to taking care of people, I got to the point where I felt I was just in the way. So I just say there's a reason God has left me here for some reason, because I have prayed to die. Really, there's been times when I have.
A friend of yours said she's excited for your 100th birthday.
No, please, let's forget that. She's a friend from the club. No, certainly would look forward to that. And I really am very realistic about that. I have no desire. I wish Jack Kevorkian were still alive.
Really? Would you want that?
Assisted suicide? Yes. Assisted, yes, definitely. Oregon, I wish our state would pass that. Other states you have to have residency for several years before, but I think it's very wise. There are so many people who would really not want to be alive, just to exist.
Would you, I guess I'm just curious.
Assisted?
Yeah, would you have wanted it already, or would you want it when you're at a certain point when you're...
No, I would like it immediately, if not sooner, because it's the same existence. Not that it's boring, but what's the point of staying alive when you don't... So far I have a bit of a life, but if I did not and I was housebound, I certainly would want assistance. I told my grandson, give me a permanent chokehold. He said, no way. I would say when I was 90, definitely. And these years are okay, but I would not have missed anything if I've missed them. The kids, but they have their own lives. Little great-grandchildren, all growing up, have their own lives. It's hard to tell someone else not to fear death. They might think they won't, and who knows the last moment if you want to stay alive. And when I have wonderful memories of my mother, and my father, and my sister, my brother, and those are the things that you remember, but life, you can't live forever.
Oh yes, you've got to think positive. In fact, all the things that I have wrong with me, all of the doctors say that I'm doing so well because of my attitude, my positive attitude. But I feel you're going to die from something. So, let it be. Don't worry about it. Go on and have a good time.
I always see the good side of everything. And I always see the good side of everybody. And I don't think about 1 year or another year. I'm 1 year, older. I never think about that. It doesn't mean anything to me. One day at a time.
When I was 20, I was having a ball. When I was 5, I was having a ball. When I was 55, I was having a ball. And I have enjoyed life completely. And with no regrets, I look back on what turned out to be quite a journey.
I think I had a wonderful life. I'm blessed.
Oh, it's a good life. It's been a good life. And the thing I've enjoyed most are my grandchildren. It was a real joy. I find out if you try to help people, someone you know needs the help, and you extend a helping hand, it always comes back to you.
Be concerned for the feelings of whoever you're dealing with, and treat them as you would want them to treat you. They cover a lot of ground.
It's just a normal thing for me to be happy. I don't know. I guess all the memories are so good. You know, I can't help it. You know, I go to bed at night and gee, I just think of all the things that I went through in my 96 years.
Think positive. I think that's the only thing that I can tell you. And if somebody says something bad, don't even listen to them. Think about the good things, not the bad things. Because even in a camp, I was always thinking positive. I always told my mom and my sister, we will survive. I'll do the best I can to try to help you to survive. And thank God I did.
So I lived an exceptionally wonderful life at every stage, and I've always been very grateful for that. And I'm still grateful for it. I reflect on it often.
You've had a good life?
Did I a good life?
Yeah.
Holy smoke, look at, I'm here. What a wonderful life. Holy gosh.